Hello everybody, my name is Mylo Memoria, keeper of memories and master of the Topaz Tower. I am a Webtoon obsessed VTuber who loves playing roguelites occasionally, and today I'm going to be trying to do a little bit of a different style of recommendation. Instead of doing one chunky recommendation over the course of like 9 minutes for one title, I've realized that our attention spans are too short, and I'm going to feed into that by making it so I only get 3 minutes per recommendation for 5 different titles, thus being my 515. Let's get started, shall we? So first off is Our Guild's Idol, recommendation number 1. Our Guild's Idol is first and foremost a romance story. This is staged mostly through a game, or more specifically an MMORPG. The art and outfits in this MMORPG are super cute, and I will say that the story does a really good job of kind of combining these game elements with social aspects that really dive deep into kind of the traumas of our two main characters. The female main character uses a male character, which she borrows from her brother. And then the male lead, or the male main character, uses a female character due to previous issues and traumas as well. While a little bit of a different circumstances, overall we have kind of like this interesting dynamic where the male character is playing with a female character in game, which isn't completely uncommon, and the female main lead is using the male character which she borrowed from her brother. More on that when you start reading it, because it goes over it pretty quickly. Overall, it's a really cool story about two people who have been traumatized by their circumstance. Oh my god, that sounds so bad. It's a really fun story about these two people who meet in this game and overall develop this kind of close bond over their shared circumstances, a very endearing kind of natural attraction towards each other, and in general, kind of overcoming their traumas and growing as people after meeting each other and getting to know each other. I will say though that this story does cover on topics of anxiety, insecurities, a little bit of trauma from social anxiety, from personal familial circumstances, and also from one of their lives as an idol. Because Our Guild's Idol is the story between a kind of shut-in, former successful student to this shut-in lifestyle, meeting this idol who's been traumatized by his fan base, the loyalty, etc., and is kind of reclusive at the moment. So it's a very fun story about how they kind of meet up in the game, their kind of rocky relationship at the start, and overcoming misunderstandings, and gradually sort of growing past their traumas. At least from where I've read, it seems to be heading in that direction. Overall, it's a really cute story. The art is amazing, and I would highly recommend for people to just go check it out, because I think there's it's a very interesting intersection for my interests of gaming and romance webtoons. So I would highly recommend, would absolutely love if you checked it out, and let me know what you think in the comments. Next up, The Male Lead's Little Lion Daughter. A little bit of a pivot from the last genre. I swear I'm just doing this to keep things a little bit fresh. There are more recommendations similar to the last one. I did try to keep this a little bit themed to a certain extent, but The Male Lead's Little Lion Daughter is a cute childcare story. We follow the story of Leonia Verodi, who is the little girl in the cover art, and her relationship meeting the Duke Verodi, who is a very powerful cold Duke of the North who is responsible for fighting off monsters, etc. You know, the classic tropes if you've read this genre before. And overall is a pretty unique one. It's actually taken up one of my favorite childcares next to Who Made Me a Princess, which is indisputably a classic and still one of my favorites, even though it's been so long and even though it's kind of been, I guess, outscaled in a few ways because of the growing genre and the development of it. But overall, it's really fun because Leonia, who didn't even have her name until the Duke adopted her, which is a fun little angsty bit you'll get, is a very outspoken reincarnator who has basically found themselves just blatantly acting like an old person. Like they don't act like a child all the time, but they do have childish tendencies due to the fact that they can kind of just say whatever they want as a child, and also due to the fact that they are limited to a child's physique, body, and endurance and stamina. So she will be able to run around and do things and say things like a responsible adult. But in the end, what ends up happening is that she gets tired out and all that stuff, which creates this interesting dynamic of kind of this older person in a childlike body, but still being able to have kind of this childlike energy and character that I think fits really well in contrast with itself in a fun way. That has made this story easily one of my favorites, just because of the way that she can be so outspoken, she can be so brash, because she understands kind of the nuances of her position, in a sense. And I think it's a really fun story to follow along. She's a really fun character, And it really helps that overall the story follows her relationship with the Duke, who is initially like literally just the archetypal Duke. He's freaking cold. He doesn't care about much. He doesn't understand love. But overall, once he meets Leonia, who he names and everything, it really opens up a lot of his world in a lot of different ways. The story starts progressing due to a lot of different circumstances that have lined up for this to be very meaningful. But it's just this incredible story about family, and it's just this incredible story about family and love, as this dad and daughter have such a fun dynamic of bantering with each other, teasing each other, joking around, and just being so loving in a way that you can tell that these two have grown to really care for each other. It's a very, very fun story that I would highly recommend, and it has a really good balance of lighthearted and fun family moments with this sort of dynamic of these people just overcoming regrets, overcoming their insecurities, which is a trend with today's recommendations, I guess. Anyways, that's pretty much it. It's a really fun story. I would highly recommend checking it out. Now to the next one. I became the cursed idol leader. Okay, you can kind of see where the theme of today's section is. I had a binge session, okay? But I became the cursed idol leader. It follows the story of a very, very, very popular K-pop idol who has made a name for herself as like this solo artist. She is winning an award when suddenly she is told that her mother in the hospital is currently having like a drastic spike in is starting to like have some negative signs, like is like actively dying. So she immediately tries to, I think, finish her award, which she was being granted like the idol of the year of the country and everything. But she just quickly runs off to try and meet her mother one last time before she goes, because her mother was such a big support for her in her life as an idol. So eventually she fails to get there in time and has a lot of regrets. She wishes that she would be able to have her mom back. And it's a really touching story where she ends up getting a chance to go back in time. The only thing is she's giving up her current life to go back in this weird promise from this strange little creature to be able to grant her wish to have her mom back. And so she goes back in time to before she debuted as an idol, but in a different life as a person who existed in her already existing timeline. And this is a world where she as a person doesn't exist, so she can use her abilities. And basically she is granted one thing she can take to her new life, and she brings her voice. So she has to debut as a top tier idol, like the idol of Korea. And so her mission is to do that in this new life, but she is in a organization and a idol unit training program that failed horribly in her previous life. So she takes back her voice, so she has her talent. Unfortunately, it means she has to redo her like dancing abilities a little bit to an extent. But overall, like the main thing is that she has to overcome the drastic change in personality and use her knowledge and acumen of the idol industry to become #1 in order to bring her mother back. It's a really touching story, very shonen-esque in terms of like the story of like, hey, I'm going to become the best idol even though I've already been the best idol, but I'm going to take these people. And it's a really fun story because I think she learns to grow and appreciate from being a solo artist to being in a group and a team more, as she learns more about these different idols and gets closer to them through her experience in her new life on like this reality show where she is, you know, trying to become an idol with these other people. So yeah, I would highly recommend. Again, I think anything on this list I just highly recommend. It's a very fun story. And it really did scratch that idol itch for me. So now jumping back to another theme, this one is very interesting. Mia returns, or Mia has returned, or Hanmia has returned. There's a bunch of different titles. It's quite a lot. But basically, it's a college romance story where the main character's ex from his younger years randomly disappeared. Kind of just like said goodbye, they broke up, and he sort of drifted off. He is someone who works a lot in order to make money, a lot of part-time jobs, and values money a lot. Sort of a common trend, I feel like, in a lot of these kind of harem-esque main characters, but whatever. I digress. So basically, she meets him eventually, or he meets her eventually in a police station due to a issue that I can't quite remember because it was really early in the story, and I'm really bad at remembering details like that. But basically, they meet again, and so she is completely different. She acts very different and says, hey, we should forget about our past. Which hurts him because, like, that's kind of, wow. Like, you just came back into my life after a long time and just suddenly say you want to pretend nothing ever happened. Wow, that hurts. So yes, there is a lot of confusion, and it's very narratively well done in the regards that it builds up to a lot of mysteries going on about Mia's return, Mia's past, and the main character's past, with her. Because there's a lot of things that don't line up, and it really creates this really well-crafted mystery about what's going on. Why is she like this? Why is it different? What's happening here? And I think that it's very fun in the regards that, unfortunately, it does kind of devolve into a harem-esque story. There's like 3 female like characters that are generally like interested in the guy, and he's interested in one of them. But they're all kind of like aspiring, like, oh, it's like this rocky relationship. We had a complicated past. But it's really interesting because the characters are very well developed, have a lot of deep-rooted issues, and the complicated dynamics and drama is extremely well done, in my opinion, where there's a lot of like kind of internal questions. Like, it wasn't supposed to turn out this way. How did it go this way? I threw away my life. Why? I ruined his life. Why? My life was already shit. You helped me get better about it. And these sorts of questions are a lot more, I swear, a lot more well done than the way I'm describing it. But it's a very interesting romance story that I think does a really good job of building up this drama, building up these mysteries, and overall kind of following their relationships with each other as they all grow to be not just strangers, but friends, and even like close loved ones that aren't quite lovers. So yeah, that's Mia has returned, or Mia returns. It's very cool, very fun. I think it's very interesting as a checkout. And overall, I mean, I can't complain. I really like college romance stories. Anyways, next and last recommendation. Who's That Girl? Okay, so this is a gender bender idol story, as you can kind of maybe figure as the pattern. But basically, an unattractive guy who really wants to be an idol, who is like, oh wow, that girl really stands out despite not being like super, like, you know, like, she didn't really leave a personal impression, but he just thought like, oh wow, that's impressive. So he grows up wanting to be an idol. The drawback is that he does not have a good face. Unfortunately, a very key element to being an idol. No notable distinguishing factors, very bland face, doesn't look that great. And so he wants to be an idol, but unfortunately, due to something that happened in like middle school, he has a negative mark on his record. Unfortunately, due to a violence or bullying sort of accusation, he is constantly just embroiled in this sort of negative image that he really cannot get past while trying to audition for all of these different idol companies. So we also start off this story learning about a folklore herb that turns someone into their past life's body. And during the scouting of a manager at one said idol company, she actually goes to his grandma, who is the herbalist who told him the story, and gets the herb, tells him to take a bath, and he turns into his past life's body, which makes him a beautiful girl. So now he has everything that was stopping him from being an idol gone. The only issue is that he has lost his abilities that he had trained and fully practiced, as well as the sort of gender shift of having to present and be a female idol, despite training as a male idol with snappy movements and vocals that are very strong and typically very masked. So he has to overcome this sort of shift in gender identity while also trying to overcome a lot of other circumstances regarding his past, his friends that he's known before, and the people who knew him and draw inspiration from him, as he was a very hardworking and inspirational guy despite being unattractive, or maybe because he was unattractive. And so it's a story about kind of growing that, trying to maintain this identity as Han Yo-il, who is, this mysterious hot mess of a female idol who is growing to try and become a good dancer, good singer again, and overall debut because it was his dream. It's a wonderful story that I think draws a lot on his past, his effort, and the effects that it's had, and how he can see that even if he doesn't truly appreciate it because of the way that the dynamics were built. So yeah, it's a fun story, very cool. reminiscent of a lot of stories about like, oh, I have to hide my identity in, for example, like Rosario Vampire style, where it's like I have to hide my identity as a human being in a school of monsters. It's not quite a harem. It's really not. It is I would say, primarily an idol story, while the overall elements of it have a little bit of romance, but I don't really see it yet. There is a very complicated circle of relationships going on with him in his past, but it's a fun story and would definitely recommend checking it out. So yeah, I hope that this was a fun little compressed speedrun of 5 titles I would recommend. So just let me know if you think the format could be changed, if it was really ass, or if you just want me to take my time and really dive deeper into these stories and what they're about. But I hope I did a good job. That was generally 15 minutes, so I'm pretty happy about that. And I hope you enjoy if you do end up going to check these stories out and, you know, appreciate them. Peace.